Hello everyone, Kurt Hoferica here, and welcome back to another episode from Hoferica Labs. This is a video here in which I'm going to be showing the seminar highlight moments, talking points that I had this past weekend at the Chicago Swordplay Guild, which is Greg Mele's school. I was able to teach my interpretations of effective strikes and how they affect the battle space of the person, and some things right there that may psychologically and mental, emotionally that would be affecting in there. This is a longer video that has got quite a bit in regards to just like all the intrinsic pieces in there that come down to utilizing these strikes, as well when it comes down to a grappling consideration against an assailant that is not complying based off of just technique. And I hope that there's a lot to glean from this that people may be able to enjoy and to focus in on. Real fast here, before I kick off into this, I want to thank Greg Mele for having me up there, for giving me the opportunity to participate in prize plays, as well as classes, assistant teaching with people in classes, and also to showcase my interpretation of this in my own little time, time block on Saturday morning. I really appreciate your friendship, your guidance, and continued communication throughout all of this, as well as all of our dialogue when it comes down to future events in regards to Armadzari, and the adventures of the 14th century. So thank you so much, my friend, for giving me the opportunity out there. I'm looking forward to much more compilation and coordination with you. So thank you again. To everyone else, I hope you enjoy the footage. Again, it's longer, but I think it's worth a look here, and I would appreciate any thoughts, considerations, comments, and everything else at the end of it all. As always, like, subscribe, share with a friend. Let's continue the practice here. And with that being the case here, let's kick into the video and see what we see.
The thing right here is, what I'm going to do is, again, we're not pushing. I want you to turn your foot over. Turn your rear foot over this way. Like right here. And do this right here. If I push in on him, see how he's strong, but I start to turn his body to the left. Why?
Because one's muscle group resisting all of you.
Correct. Anatomically, a little bit less pressure here. Anatomically, less pressure. As I push in, eventually his body's going to go this way. Already you can tell his body is going to the direction of his knee. Why? Because the body doesn't want to break itself. It's always going to give way to the direction that it feels like it sustain itself. So in this case right here, the difference is, if he decides to turn his foot forward, I got nothing. This is important. For those that have worn it, when your legs are chassis to your body, this is very hard to do. So is this. Yeah, you can do it. I'm glad that you can do it. But the reality is, kind of clap yourself in certain spots there with your creases. It's not necessarily fun. So keeping yourself like this, and you can move and play, is very important. Pair up, play with it. Experience what it's like as if you're still give out. Don't sit there and like try to fight to win. Feel how your body, let yourself play it. I'm easy to look at it. Feel how your leg gives you to the direction of the knee bend. Okay? The volta stabile. The volta stabile has really power. It can shoot in. And it also is not indomitable. It's also really great for turning against somebody if we don't have the structure necessary for it. A combat is fluid, so we're not sitting there doing this all the time, right? So someone might shift to a spot right here and then shift and turn with certain things. But if we understand those things, we can start hunting them. Okay? And that's what we're working towards. We're going to do one last thing here, because now we're going to talk about how do I step forward? Kurt, this is fantastic, but how do I step forward? I always love to pass forward. We have to pass forward, right? What happens if we cross? Whoever got through some of the sharp sims last night, when you actually make a crossing with the blades that stick, this stuff will happen. It's amazing. It's almost like the same thing just going into the grips. So, with this being the case here, we're going to talk about how we shift and we displace. Now, this is a little bit different from yesterday. This is how I see it, but it's because I believe in round combat. Very similar concept to what Jack was talking about. Loved it. So remember how we talk about shifting and opening up, right? Using that, you can cross into this, or you can just kind of turn, start giving yourself that turn, right? This is important to know. The difference right here is, this is why we don't leave the bind, we stick with it. In this case right here, I want to walk in on him. Can't do it, won't do it, no way. But what happens if if I shift the pressure. So displacement. All I'm going to do here is I'm not going to step. I'm just going to keep my arms locked, and I'm going to turn. Now, my foot is still offline here. The big thing that I'm trying to do here is I want to make this same shape. I want to come here or into here as I'm old. Why? Well, you saw my intentions, right? For me, this is the same way of crossing with a sword. In this place. Open him. Just open him a little bit. Now, I can come here. My foot is not, like we was talking about yesterday, please, I'm talking about those are very important notes to know where toes and hips go. If my toes going this way, as I open him, I'm going to go this way. I want to get behind him. That's what we're doing. Okay? So all we're doing is keeping a line right here, hands up. Master's going to maintain that steady position. Scholar is just going to open up, and then they're not going to use their arms. You can use their hips. And because it's right here, I can now pass through. And I want you to touch the right, so you know how you get to the backside. Okay? New partners, please. Try to get it where we have, again, asymmetrical as possible. I know we may not have, I'm not going to sit there and like hem anybody up for having their own sizes. But again, try to find asymmetrical structures. Okay? That's the big thing we're doing right now. Again, left foot forward against left foot forward, right foot forward against right foot forward. We're talking about what I call opposing structures versus mirrored. Make sense?
Yes.
Things. It shifts the weight, right? And again, depending on what you got, this could be a dagger shot, the second master. Going into that two-proportionate throw, reinforced, we can shift in those ways. I also want to talk about right here. This is something I want to get through little brain housing groups. First and foremost, I don't want to hear right or wrong, okay? Good or bad. In this class, when it comes down to combat, there's beneficial and unbeneficial. There's a reason why I say this here, is we can damn ourselves to death by saying, I did a bad thing. It's so bad. That's not good. The reality is, if I have made your structure terrible, then I have done a beneficial thing for me. That doesn't mean that you're an idiot and then I'm not going to make the grade. It just means, oh, I had a better game there, or maybe I lied or hurt you more to get this business. Please put that in your head. I also want to bring up two people up here real fast here, because this is a great example here, because they were also noticing here, I can do the same thing underneath. Yes, you can. We're not doing that, and if we were doing a crossings class at the fourth day, I would talk a lot about this here. But the reality is here we have a real tall person here and a real short person here. Right? So they crossed up with this right here. One of the things that they noticed is that as Shek was doing this, he could push up, and then here he goes right back in. The space between that area, this is very similar to how we talk about the shoulders, hips, and everything else, is you're just displacing because you're using this back cross. Thank you so much. We're not going to go into that. If you found that, great. You just found another way to be able to shift direction and movement in crossing on a person. What we're going to talk about here is one last thing here is the strengths of the longest and strongest, and this comes from my observations of drawings within Fiore's Armazari, but it's also talking with other martial arts as far as the basic anatomy, and also my massage therapist that works on me like twice a month so I can keep doing this crap. Post longa and post frontale. So we just had this whole lesson about how this right here is really weak, right? Are we not a frontale? But are we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So this also talks about short strikes. This little takeaway real fast. If I'm like this right here is what I teach my students is the longest and strongest. Yes, I can be longer, blah, blah, blah. But is my sending right?
No.
Nope. Don't get it. Then that's not a beneficial position for me to be in. This is the longest and strongest I will ever be in. Right? For posta longa, this is the longest and strongest I will ever be in. Okay? So if we understand those anatomy positions right here, we may understand that we can target the weaknesses of one. One last thing we're going to do right here is if we go into this position, both hands off to the side here. If I'm like this, and we are both in, we drop down in front. If I have my hand right here in this, I can use him offline on this. I am attacking his volta stabile and not his grounding. I can stand here like this. All day. Why? because he's only using his shoulder. Now, Mark's a big boy. I'm not going to lie, I'm sitting there shaking a little bit. The reality is that is only strength, which we have to have, right? We also have to understand about how the body breaks. So just experience this one last time here. Because again, we already experienced our frontality and the weakness of that. I want you now, one person is going to be in postal lunge like this, and the other person is going to experience like this, going to shift that. Like you hold this. You're going to deal with that. And then he's going to experience the same thing about how if I press in here, lean into me. Once again, what happens? We have to understand how the tree falls so we can eventually learn how we don't want to be and how we want them to be. Not like this. If this is the longest and strongest I am with 2 hands forward, and this is the longest and strongest I am with 1 hand forward, if I go like this and I put my hands together, I may have just found the angle of the fendente sultani line. So that right there, again, when I teach this right here, we're never not using the positions of sorry. You know, this right here, why are my hands up? This is frontality. But because there's a weight here in my hand, the sword makes the body look a little different. Right? In all that interest. So that's the way that you can play with here, that if you want to look at advantageous structure for striking, that's your homework as far as that goes. Next phase, we're going to start talking about, you know, we talk a lot about drills and stuff like this, and one of the things I really stress in my curriculum is visibility. We have a drill called a RAT, rapid acquisition targeting, where if I'm looking at one, there may be 5 people around me, they're moving. We do this with swords, we do this with axe, we do this with spear. Can you use Volta to find yourself? Right? How can you use Descendant? Right? For this, and why I do that is because ultimately, just as an example here, check, can I use your offensive? Right? So what's going to happen here is, as he comes in and grapples at me, and I'm dealing with this right here, and I eventually shove him off, I'm going like this right here. I don't know the next one's coming. He comes and grabs me. And now I'm in a position right here. Can you find your sendo? Can you find your stance? Can you find your awareness? Can you find the right action? Because as much as we like to look at these, these are 2 pictures right here, people coming together. Yes. Hold on here, we're walking down the street. He's like, no. Don't jump me. Not today. No. You stay back. You, back way. Now, right? That's So we're talking about that. And again, this is where, again, if you have a history of, if you've had a history of violence right here, you don't have to disclose anything. If you just want to watch, please, by all means, because we're going to talk about some of the effective strikes here that we're dealing with. So first thing first here is, Mark's going to come in, he's going to give unto me, I want him to give me what I would say is this scruff. And if you're ever beat up and had a bully, it looks something like this. Yep. Right? Now we can sit there and do all the hacky slappy stuff right here, but these muscles are engaged. So whether or not it's effective to actually do certain things right there, may or may actually be maybe not be possible. The Marine Corps talks about effective strikes as softening blows. So in this case, he's going to grab in on me. And here's the thing, I can sit here and smack his arm all day. I'm not doing shit, am I? Now this is a friendly day. I like Mark. Okay? I'm sitting on his couch. Oh, right, I'm not going to get robbed later on, right? One thing is right here is, he's not, this is reality. He's not going to sit there and say, he's done the technique. I've won. So we have to cheat. This first drill, we're going to talk about the eyes. Do not touch the fucking eyes. Okay? We are going to start talking about, we're going to feel what it's like when someone assaults the face. And then we're going to play on the face. Again, if you are not comfortable and you want to observe, please do so. We're going to go in teams of 3. There's one person that's going to be watching this. And the other person right here that's going to be having this happen right here, I want you to feel what it's like to have this happen. The person that's doing this, again, what I'm going to do here is, I'm putting my thumbs right at the base of his eyes. Not on his eyes. I'm grabbing onto his face. I want him to feel this. Okay? The reality is, and we're going to talk about how this grip might actually be. This is uncomfortable. So I do this right here. I start pressing his face. His face starts going different directions. Right? And this is a friendly contact, okay? If you can see this, eventually if I start moving this right here, he's already kind of flinching because he's got eyes of somebody else in their face. This is not a friendly embrace.
Somebody take a picture.
Right? So in this case, the moment I pop my fingers, instinctually what happens?
Close my eyes.
So this is the thing we have to understand. What we are trying to do is we are trying to disrupt this mind. His mind right now is in, you are small, little man, and I come in right here, and now he's like, oh shit, my eyes! So the first thing we're going to start doing here is, I just want to, like I said, fingers right here. No further up. None. And if the person's not comfortable with it, you can just hover the thumbs there. Okay? So variant 1, if they're comfortable with this, he starts pushing in on me, I'm going to start staring him back. Just feel with this, like, we don't have to go and altercate and escalate this. The thing right here is, like, notice how much of a badass you feel like. Yeah, come here, little man. Fuck. Right? And how much size really does it matter here. Okay? How knowing the effective strikes is a big part. Okay? So we're going to go into groups of 3s. We start off with that, hands on, and when you're ready, it's going to start off, scruff up. Like, really try to get out of this. And the person that's grabbing, don't sit there and be nice about this. Like, you're not trying to hurt this person, but he's grabbing me. I'm going to start trying to push him off. I can't do anything. That's an assault. So I'm going to find his face. After I try to get out of this, pause. I'm going to find his face, start scruffing again.
Yeah,
Now I'll control it. Feel the difference. And I'm not hitting his eyes. I'm pushing the cheeks.
turning the head.
And what does it do? Why am I able to turn his head? If I just push his forehead, why can't I turn his head? He doesn't give a shit. You're not hurting me. Nice work there, little man. If I do this right here, what's he doing? He's automatically steering up so that I can steer the head. Group of 3s. Make this slow. But when you scruff somebody, I want you to scruff them. I want you to grab them. Again, I'm going to say this one last time. If you have a history of violence and don't want to participate, you just want to be an observer, that is A-OK. A-OK. No need to participate. We're not trying to do it. We're just trying to get a taste of violence. Asymmetrical as possible, please. Group up. So I've already had, in several spaces, the question is like, what do I do? I have a long condor arm guy that's like lengthening me out this way here, right? I start slamming his arm here, but he's muscularly contorted. Maybe his arms are bent. Maybe it's not, whatever. Perfect example is right here with Shaq. I was like, man, you are keeping us on track. And we're trying to get the eyes. So this is another thing that happened. Now, the thing about this, when we do this, please understand, do not gouge. You can destroy someone's breathing capacity here with very, very, very little pressure. So I need, you're really long here. So a couple things here. A couple things here about structure. We talked about this before. He grabs in on me. If I come underneath here, I'm already putting myself underneath. So if he bends his arms downward and traps this, now he's got a means to be able to strike me in the groin. We already talked about coming over, right? By coming this way here, I can control this space. If he's still, I might be able to reach up, but if he starts leaning his head back to not be able to touch his eyes, there's another option that's a little bit closer, and that's his throat. We're aiming for the V portion right here. Now, immediately, what does your arms feel like when you freaking felt that into your neck?
I didn't care what my arm was doing.
Ah! His mental was completely lost. His structure, his strength, his courage, all broken, right? He doesn't give a shit about choking that, but he cares about like, oh God, this really sucks, right? So what we're going to do here, first and foremost, is just test this and feel this. All you need to do, is your throat good? Okay. Is, all we're going to do this here is, don't even do this way. I just want you to stand like this. I'm just going to push into the throat. You can feel how much that, just by pushing that is enough to be like, oh God, that's enough. Can I pull your shirt down here real fast here? We're aiming for the B spot right here, right at the trade. Yep. Right here. What I was taught, dig and rip. Make your throat your wing. Okay?
Music to my ears, Max.
So, keep the teams that you got. Just experience pushing them real fast here, and then we're going to start talking about the tactical solution, being able to get in there, to gain access once again to the eyes, and then we're going to start finding some face some more. Okay? Go back into that assault consideration. Okay? So again, we're not going to sit there and make this picture perfect, everything's wonderful. We're going to start going into this and finding the eyes. So as he comes in and grabs me and starts shaking at me right here, again, get the arms over, like the story tells us, shoot my hand into the throat. Notice immediately what happens to his body. Retreating. As he does this, I can work into his face. Now look at his sentio. Gone. Right? So in this case right here, once you get here, what I want you to start playing with, and again, with your partner's permission, push the jaw. Right here behind the start pushing the jaw. And what we're doing right here is, now notice here, why? So if I want to turn him a certain way, if I want to turn him this way, because why would I want to turn this way? Look at the structure. Why would I want to turn to my left?
Triangle.
That's his voltus leg. So if the pressure's here in the center, I can't win this right here until I push him off. So as I push his jaw here, he's already body going towards the direction of his voltus stabile, which allows me to get to these spaces. So your avvisamento must be aware of where they're on the body. Of course, in a fight right here, it's not perfect. You're probably just going to drive through, hit a joint, and as soon as this leg kicks up along the side right here, now you know you're coming across the body. That's reality of violence. But for today, so you can kind of see what I'm doing when we talk about attacking the battleship. Grips in, here, pop in, throat, go for the eyes. I want to, in this case here, take a moment here, pause, note their structure. His voltus stabile goes this way. So push him that way. And now we've just found ourselves where the hand is across the jaw. Does this not look like something out of an image? So
Someone draw it, quick.
Here, all here. So work to that position right there. Okay? So as he's doing this, so why is he turning his head?
It hurts.
It sucks, right? You know, oh my God. Pain aversion. Right? And that's, we're going to talk about that later on. This, some of my theory about with armor, we're talking all about that stuff. So that's what we're trying to do here. So, new group 3. Okay, so since you've all had we've had that safe space right there, we'll go into the other ones here in a second. Use that 3 to finish this off. Seriously, like to get you to create that shape. Don't throw, please. Just get to the end position. Because the thing that I have in here is, one more time, in, here, up, throat, I'm pushing. As I've gotten to this right here is nasty because his spine is turned this way. If I go through and throw him to the ground, I'm severing part of his C2 through 370. Do not close him. Again, if you're not comfortable with this, please safety observe. But we're going to make this happen because now my fingers are daggers and swords. You can imagine the visorless and that helmet with Visby gauntlets, how those become claws. Keep that right there. Use the assault, get the portion, tap the throat. Again, tap, work to the face, note their structure, push them into that position. Make sense? Same groups, stuff that's in there that Fiore talks about, right? So we're going to talk about it right now, and again, Shaq, thank you for keeping the head tenable here, pushing up. We're going to talk about that. How do I get the arm this way right here? He's so strong. This is not a fair fight. This is not where, like, what's your weight class?
140.
Okay, yeah, we're not fighting. Who's 180? All right, Max, let's go, right? That's not what we're talking about. This is anything on the street. This isn't a sport. How do I get the biggest, baddest son of a bitch out there on the ground? This is about necessarily hitting them. Absolutely hitting them when it's necessary. It's about getting those soft things so that I can push through and break some of those things. That's what we're talking about here. So another thing we're going to talk about here is about how do we get to a spot where we go for the leg kick. So, you know, we see the images where the guys are here, and somehow I'm along this way here, and I'm just right here. Well, thank you so much for being a great Uki. You know what? I'm invincible now. No one can touch me because look, I've won the day. The reality is he grabs me with his arm, and I go for this. Come on, what are you going to do? I'm screwed. Oh, God, this sucks. Right? So I have to change the battle space. The battle space, the battlefield is their body. As a person grabs in, you have to find a way to get them to go up. Upward with their direction. This is why making armor, besides just stabbing into the throat, if I can place it on the chain, I can turn someone's visor up this way, because now your body's going backwards with this. in this context right here, what we're looking at is as the body's on right here, again, I shoot to the hands, I go to the eyes, and now here's the part right here that's really nasty. If I want to, in this case, and I'm pushing his body, he's already going backwards. Two things that really bad happen here. I want you to experience both of them. Keep one hand on. If I'm driving him back and he steps backwards to keep away from the ring, now we're talking about this.
If I'm not, you'll hear it.
Okay? The other thing that happens is we get right here and he lets go, he gets to his eyes. Now we're hearing this. So what I want you to experience again, so this is not acting, this is not Schönmeistering. The reality is what he's doing is being a fantastic Uki. Because if there was someone out here who I could pop your eyeballs, you're like, yeah, God, you feel it? Well, you probably have glass eyes, or maybe this is Cyberpunk 2077 right there. You're thinking nothing in there. Okay? The reality is, if you have much of a badass, you take fingers in the eyes, and nothing's happened today. And it's not what's happening. So the two things I want you to explore, again, grabs in, shoot the throat, move to the eyes. As I drive through him, because remember, here's the weight. If we're equal, I can't stop. So I have to move the direction of energy. So I push his eyes, I come in this way. As he steps backwards with this, grab it. Be very careful with this. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this just to catch. It sucks already just being soft with that. Okay? That one, other one here, and pop here. Hit the throat, pop the eye. And those what happens here? Again, where am I going? On the outside. Is this not the same principle we talked about going here to come over here? Same thing. New groups. More things that you could understand. Again, we're not going to do that all today because I want to start getting to arms. Everyone's like, well, where's the swords, Meister? Where's the swords? Well, they're against the walls right now. We'll get to that in a second. You know, at the end of the day, we're not going to be hacking at each other. We're going to be talking a little bit about armor. We're going to be talking a little bit more about daggers and remedies and all sorts of horrific things. So we're going to get into that experience. The two things I want to add here. Easy for a second here, sir. So in this case, you got to do the leg piece. He comes in here, he grabs, boom, strike, in. As I'm driving, he tries to defend his face, and I go into this, right? If you notice how my hands are right here, what I am not going to do is his head is backwards. The reality is, yeah, we can argue, well, he can fall out of the safety. BS. If I've done it properly, I'm going to hurt this man. I don't want to do it. I don't want you to hurt anybody. It sucks to hurt somebody. But as I'm in this position, you can see the idea right here. I'm like this. What am I in?
Danju Shengyaro.
And then, pop!
Longer.
Now we're going into first master. So the point being right here is, or you get to the spot, boom, here, strike in, pop, you go to defend his head, okay, pop! That's what I'm doing. And if I rip and pull up this way, why am I going up? Because I want him to go on the ground. Can he knee me? Maybe. If you're thinking about kneeing me at that point in time, there is special the pain that happens after impact. So you have to, that's why this is quick. I can't sit there and be like, hi, I've got your face. And he's like, well, yeah, right there. Or even worse, boom, it's hit the groin, right? You're not going to sit there and fiddle around with someone's eyes. It's grab, move into something else. Soft, strike, kill, right? Those are the things that you're talking about with that. So I go into that right here because we're going to start talking about the big thing I want, first and foremost here, I want to share an interpretation that I see within the first master remedies and off the ligadurus. If I come in with this ligadurus spot, he comes in and ligadurus me, right? Well, first and foremost here, so this is a great example. I can't grab my wrist. Oh God! But what happens if I start pushing into his jaw? Into this. You can't just make the play. He has every reason to break my arm off the strength. 100% reasons. You don't, I've won the day, right? No, BS. Take that ligadura one more time. The reality is, up with this right here, I am in trouble, but I have this long finger here, so I start the press. This is a tray right here that looks like a Meyer dueling dagger, as someone told me about it. It's a fucking rondelle. Just by pushing there, now I create the battle space. And in doing that, what have I done? I pushed this right through his jaw. with a pop of the wrist, I can dislocate it. Now I've not taken 4 teeth, I've taken your jaw. So what we're going to do is we're going to very slow with this. But you're going to understand, I want you to be put into that ligaduro that's like, oh my God, I am in fucking trouble. The kind of thing right here is like, oh my God, it allows us to say, thank God we are in the modern era where I can say, put me in that person, put that in the ligaduro. Like this right here. Where I go, chop, chop, chop. Well, I can say, oh thank God, I'm not actually going to go to the hospital today. Put that person in the best control. Look, don't go into the play. Just make the shape and let them go into the ligaduro. The play we're talking about here is that remedy. So I'm in this position. Find the jaw, push up into this. Even with a wooden rondelle, this sucks. I'm starting to turn his head. Now I can find it. Without doing that, I'm screwed here. The reality is of this right here, I've already been thrown, broken, and this is dislocated. So immediately just find that point which you already told them. By the way, and is that not what we've been doing this entire time? We're just now using an extension. This is not a weapon. That's the weapon. This is the multiplier. Okay? Daggers, hair up, work this. Nice and slow. Again, we're shooting the face. So we have that experience. Great! Guess what? Your experience in combat. The advice is face down. One of the other areas here. If I can't reach his arm to shoot, look at her. Point being is right here. If I can't reach this, I can also turn into his butt.
That tape nice.
So in this case right here, I hit the back of the skull, right?
Yeah, we did that one.
If I overshoot. So the point being right here is that where you find the point, you can create it. Your amygdala is not going to sit there and say, well, the play failed. I guess you're just screwed today. So sorry. Sorry, you didn't make the perfect fit for here. You didn't have good X, Y, Z. That's why I say it's not good. It's not bad. It's beneficial or not beneficial. If this person breaks your structure, this is great structure. But if he breaks my structure, and I'm all fine right here, and he ligaduras me, well, now I'm in really horrible structure. If I come up with it, he can stop us, this makes it worse. So I've got to find something to attack his structure. Right? Because it's a fight vessel. Try fighting for a change. Right? So understand that. I'm adding those pieces in there so you can see. If you fail to engage with the jaw, don't lose hope. He tells you the flanks. Why? Because if I can't stab the person with the pointy end of this thing, I might have another thing to deal with right here. Not to mention also, his first impulse might be to, if I'm right here, wrap up. He's going to try to stop this hand. That's fine, I'm going to grab his junk. That's right. Make him look single and soprano. You know, it's all right. Hey, fuck is that guy? What am I going to do about it? So the point right here is it's about absolute destruction here. This guy, we care about this guy.
Sometimes.
The guy who represents, fuck that guy. That's the difference of what we're talking about here, about attacking the battle space. Okay? So I use it right there because ultimately, we can sit there and say, well, I guess I come across this right here. What happens if you deal with an assailant that's got meat, beef, and skill on you? You gotta get crafty, you gotta get nasty, you gotta get dangerous. The next one we're gonna start talking about here is we're gonna get swords. We're gonna start talking about here. So we're gonna go ahead and go back, grab your swords real fast. I'm going to talk a little bit about my research as everyone's getting stuff in here. Again, you don't need masses. But have them there, again, if you need them, you need them, that's fine. You got broadcast here, I'm going to announce it again. I run a YouTube video, a channel called Hoferica Labs. That's not I'm sorry. It's because I try to test out this stuff. There's some things I have not put out there into the internet because people are crazy. And I don't really want to see people see me stabbing myself with a rondelle dagger with chainmail on to see how far do I really have to break chain. The reality is that you really don't. So, again, if this is about changing battle space, we're going to be talking a little bit right here. So first and foremost, how do we change battle space on something? Why would I stab in these spots right here? I'll just kill the guy. Well, what happens if they bury me down? What happens if you can't lift up the screws? These are absolutely great. Lift up the screw, knee in the cord. These are all viable situations. But if you are in a half-throw situation, you see it's all this right here. And I'm in this position. Now, why am I doing this with my body? Christian, I'm wearing the armor. In this situation, we're using armor. Why am I using my body? He might be bringing down my arm, bring the sword out of my arm. I have this idea this morning. What am I doing here? I'm shooting an eye. It's not about going, wham, I roll through all the chain. A good type 15 will go about this deep into chain just by placing it. And all I'm going into the shoulder, you're feeling this, that sucks, and now I can turn this. So what we're going to do right now is, the first stage of all of this, is we're going to do what I call target and striker. The target's going to stand like this. The striker is going to put the point into the shoulder, into the hip. And what we're going to do here is we're not going to slam. By all means, in combat's crazy, right? Because look at boxers, they do beautiful form as they work against the back. But how do they start doing this in the ring, right? It's because everything becomes faster. Okay? So for right now, why are we doing this? One, we're not going to Agincourt. Again, we're not going to points today. It's going to go further back. So we're just going to experience other things right here that make this viable. So the target's going to stand like this. I'm going to place the sword into the shoulder. Just going to do some slicing. Now notice what happens to his body. He can resist this if he wants, but I don't think he really wants to. As he's turning his body, I have a hand. Now I have a third hand here. My right hand is in this position. And now all these plays where Fiore ends up going like this start to make sense because of how shoes of the time work. So starting off with this, one target like this. Plant into the shoulder, drive, turn, release. Find an elbow. Think of it as a fan. Turn up and over. Break the structure even more. If he steps forward across to get his ground, fall into him. So now we're just finding ways to, again, disrupt the battle space. Here, my ankle approach. So, in this case here, again, target on type of situation, he's in the target situation. Right? If I pop into here, and say I get to a spot where I get a spalder. This is only my left part of my body working here. Now, I want him to feel this. As I turn and drive up, how much different this is going to be, just by going like this. So think about the bouncer drill, lifting up the arm, right? Boom, turn. Now what have we just created? The same type of structural thing right here. If I break chains and this blows out his arm, great! But if I'm in the battle of the 30, I now have a meat shield attached to my my eating pricker, right? And meanwhile, his buddy is behind me, and I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. Right? So I'm not saying that these things weren't high kinetic actions. Hell yeah, they were. A fight's always ugly. The point being is that in the clinch of crossing, I might just go like this. It's enough to get this right here. Because why? I don't care about cutting off the arm. I care about turning him into a position where it then becomes time to end cruel combats where I have no equal. One more thing here we're going to talk about here. So before we go into this. Came to this spot right here. I turn him off this way, pop across. I'm into the body. This is somebody came up over here. Square. This is where, again, your structure and your stendo stance is very important. In this situation right here, he's wearing a visor, he's got something, so on and so forth. If he backs into me, I have nothing here. Now, you might be thinking, well, hey, that's fine, you're in armor. But if a person in armor falls on you in armor, and you're on the bottom portion right there, you're in trouble now. And God forbid that your foot's like this, and then it snaps underneath you. So instead, turn around. As we make these positions, we're going right back into that stendo stance. So if he starts to fall back into me, I now have the ability, and by the way, as he starts to fall into me, I can also go into my volta stability because that's the angle of my legs. battle spaces, right? So this last question I want to hear for the class, before we go into the talk, is high serpent, breve, and just see how much you can change the body position. Really get a good bite in there. Notice how this turns in downwards and how this turns in upwards. Just notice how that works right there. Experience it from the low position in the hips and in the shoulders. Give a couple reps and sets, a few little pricks in there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Fiore's specialty. What did you call it earlier? Persuaders. Right? So we'll talk a little bit about that, why rep and tech is a big thing about it. Okay? Keep the groups. You know, as far as dark realities, right? Reality is here, like, it is very, people talk a big game, I can go out there and do this thing here. But I'm going to part with you something that drill instructor Staff Sergeant Peterson, who was one of the drill instructors of 1066 my platoon in 2001 at Paris High. We were doing map training, and one of the things he said to us was, there's 3 things of advice I give you all. He didn't talk like this, there's a lot more screaming involved. But the lesson stayed very home in there because of this. This is a very ugly thing that I think is very important for anyone that practices with these, or wants to wear a suit as a combat professional all the time. What he said to us was, know what hurts, exploit what hurts, and don't give a flying fuck if they're screaming because it hurts. Kill them. So I'm sharing that not to make this verbose, but to maybe explain how the psychological factor, someone screaming in pain next to you. Over here, a second ago, someone did a twist up and you go, oh my God, the first response is, are you okay? So understand that that's also part of the battle space that we're talking about here. So we're going to be talking about the physical concepts from moving like this right here, all the hinges and switches and how the body works naturally. The laws that don't work with that, the truths of lengths, the longest and strongest we are in structures. And in spaces like right here, we are able to do this because we're with our friends, because you imagine the battle space up here and also here of, holy shit, I have to do this to another human being. And then maybe some of the social structures and contexts that are out there that make that okay in this period of time. So that's the other battle space. That's the last thing I want to really talk about. And how, in many cases, we look at these tools, like these are the nice ones. He's got blades on his armored sword with spikes on the end. Find all the nasty things out there because why? Am I trying to hammer and beat the shit out of somebody? Maybe. We all go back to being apes and trees when we get really threatened, right? But to the combat professional who has it as a mentor, who's fighting their arguments to make things happen, maybe they're just trying to find every point and prick on somebody. I'm going to turn it over here. We got a few minutes before we got to get ready for the prize play here. Are there any questions, observations? What did someone learn? I turn the floor over.
Earlobes are a great mechanism to turn somebody.
Yes, they are, right? Yes, they are.
When you're training this stuff, what is like the line between I want to have the intent of violence and the feeling of violence versus I'm being an asshole and I'm inflicting pain on you?
So, for what we do now in Raleigh, in general, or like in general practice?
In general.
Okay. So, when I built my curriculum for Armament Sorry, I had an MAIT, martial arts instructor trainer, Master Guns Venerable, talk to me about how do I make these things as realistic as possible. You can't train with this. You have to either A, hate that person, or be afraid of them, or real. So that lupin look comes out of your eyes like, I'm going to eat you before you eat me. Or, you have to have tools where you can go all out on somebody and not worry about it. I would worry the hell out of it. This is narrow enough, I cut off hands and fingers with this thing, right? This is not a tool to do that. The Marine Corps uses bugle sticks, which are these big padded things right here, and we wreck the shit out of each other. Right? Why? Because you can go ham, and you might concuss that person or knock out their mouth guard, but you're not going to sit there with a moke at you and brain through with a buttstock and concuss them. So why train this? One, Takuan Soho, who is an Eastern philosopher who spoke to Yagi Munenori as well as Musashi, writes about how the person that comes to knowledge without a teacher, if you play with this, you will find fire. that is not a choice. Right? That is an accident, and that is enlightenment that happens quite rapidly. And sometimes, what happens if you did that? What happens if you're like in a spot right here, your monkey brain turns over, knows what hurts, because you know what hurts on you, and you shove this person across, and you make that person a quadriplegic for a period of time. And that's your friend. Did you know that was going to happen? No. You discovered the thing that happened there accidentally without a teacher. My philosophy is this. Down south there, where I do whether it's armor or operates alright, CQC, or I can combat intensives, it doesn't matter. I teach you exactly what to do. So that way it doesn't happen on accident. If you choose to do that, you are out of my class, we will no longer talk, bye. Because in order to get to that spot, you now demonstrated you have no control. To know how to hurt somebody is to now know how to safeguard yourself. You now know what this feels like right here. You've been a good Uki. So you have the lesson of the near death. So one, if you are in that spot, when it comes to that spot, you know to say stop or know how to avoid it. Also, you know what it's like to happen to you, because if you do that to somebody, now you have been an asshole. Or, quite possibly, you may have been amped up beyond what is safe spark. And that might be internal reflection. And that only can happen in conversations like this and training like this, where that type of stuff happens. In our practice, there's 3 things I ask after every sparring session. What did you see, think, feel? I learned this from Fears of Mind Killer. What did you see, think, feel? I saw some metal and shit out there. Okay? That tells me as a life coach, as a combat instructor, as a trainer, your mind is more in the amygdala than it is in the fourth portion of your mind. You're not fencing anymore. You're not doing combatives anymore. You are fighting. Okay? Couldn't see much. What'd you think? Man, I don't know. It's like beehives. Your cognizant mind is gone. All I know is this right here. Okay, how are you feeling right now? I'm not asking for a fucking critique. I know how to scare you. I know how to punch you. It's a great liar, right? So I know how I feel. I don't give a damn about what your critique of me is. I'm asking you as a trainer, what do you see, think, feel? How do you feel right now? I can now observe your breathing in. Right? Oh my God, you know, I'm kind of sweating here, man. Looking back and forth. Glazed eyes. Heartbeat. All these to me as a trainer tell me the training may have been too much to retain anything in that space. Police, military, and what was written in that book, Fear of the Mind Killer, talk about that. And these are things you have to build into the practice. Because how do you know if you're being an asshole? You may not want to be an asshole, but you may inadvertently be an asshole, because if you're like, yeah, I got this is great, I made the play, I made the picture, right? But did you know that you actually possibly ruptured that femoral artery? Did you know you may have lacerated your testicle? Well, now you know what that could be like, because you have been taught. So that means now when you go to that spot, you can aim, fly, and slow yourself down with control. So what's the difference between being an asshole or being hyperextended? Practice, stress inoculation, and safe space to say, nope, stop. A lot of my practice, I look at BDSM, where they talk with each other. Hey, what is on the table, what's not on the table? I got people in my school that will grab me, gouge me, pull my hair, knee me in the crotch when we do enhanced aprazari. Not general training, but enhanced aprazari. And it's not for everybody, that's for my practitioner level. Safe words bottom. And I don't need to go back and say that was a little much. Bullshit. We empower each other. You know what? I'm in a bad space today, let's take beers off. Why am I saying that? Because you just grab my beard. There's a natural thing that happens when you grab someone's beard. Or hair, right? Or push his face. Instead, I don't get to call you an asshole. I get to say, you know what? This made me flare. I feel angry right now. Let me take a breath. Let's take beer grabs off the table. And as you build up success, so you can start to see when you're being flared. It's just practice. Now, that's a long-winded answer right there, but please, I want you to make sure that you got that.
Right.
Cool. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Wonderful. What else?
Just the simple power of guard transitions. It's a blade. It's a blade. Like, no. That sucks.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Absolutely. And how that right there rotates and shifts and creates volta in positions. Wonderful.
We had a question over there.
Oh, I just had a general question or statement, like, especially in new settings where you have a bunch of new people, like, you can see how important stress training is, like, because you're not only, like, socially anxious or mentally anxious, like, all of the things you learn, you're like, oh crap, like, I'm failing on several levels. So doing that over and over and over is probably the only way to get better.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, because one big thing right here that's just pointing out is like, are these failures or are these the things that are a part of the battle space? If anyone's ever heard of the book on killing by David Grossman, one of the things he points out is, what is the one thing that soldiers fear most in the battle? Yours got to guess. What's that? Looking bad? That's one. What else?
Failure.
Failure. What else? The number one thing.
Failing your friends.
Boom! Failing their friends. We're all friends here, right? I don't want to look weak in front of them. I don't want to look like a schlep. That's why I said there is no good or bad. There's beneficial and non-beneficial. If you embrace that, great book, The Courage to Be Disliked. That's why I don't believe in good and bad anymore, as far as directives, as far as communication. Very important. If you can embrace that there's beneficial and non-beneficial, then you're never looking bad. Someone may have outpaced you. Thank you for that. I got time for one more.
I really liked that we got to play with daggers against the face without wearing masks. That was it was very, very informative. That's not something we do a lot.
It's a huge part, and the thing is, you have to have. This is not for a basic person. And if we have new people that are in classes right here, but you also with senior students, and that's important. Now that exposure gets to ripple across, right? I got to practice this not with wooden daggers, but with blunt training brambles. It is terrifying how effective that is, and how this right here just becomes a pop, and that jaw is dislocated. Now I'm really going to take course. Absolutely. So if you are going to do that later on, make sure that you have safety observers. Absolutely. Because being able to experience that, like we told before, the defensive man, I'll have a good time. Really want some of this shit? What did his eyes go immediately? Right?
Right to the shiny.
What happens when the safety is gone? So thank you for that. Okay. Thank you all so much. I appreciate this opportunity to teach everyone.